This is the second movie for Excel Chapter 2, Pause and Practice 2-1. We left off, we had just completed Step 4, so we're going to begin on Step 5 on page E2-103, and this is working with mixed references, and so that's where one component of a cell address is locked or has a $ in front of it, and the other can change. So what we're going to do here, let's walk through it before we actually just do it. Look at management and operational. So we have to do the same thing here. We want to take this value and multiply it by, over in the rates and tables, the management. For operational, we want to take the same value, the same row, and multiply it by this value, okay? And so their management and operational are on top of each other in both places. They're in the same order. The cell that we want to multiply for both of them is found here for this first column is in B11. But if we move over here to May, it's not in B11, it's in C11. And D11 and E11. So you see it's in 11, but the row can change. So what we will need to do when we reference this value is lock in the row piece, but allow the column to change as we copy it across. It'll change from B to C to D to E, but the 11 will stay fixed. Then the second piece, remember we multiply it by the percentage, right? So for management, the percentage is in G3. In operational, it's in G4. So the G stays the same, right? It's always in column G, but it could be in 3 or 4, and if I had more, it'd be 5 and 6, right? So the row changes, but the column is fixed. So we're going to do, we're going to set this up so that the pieces that need to be fixed are fixed, and the part that needs to change will change, and that's a mixed. So we're going to begin this like we begin all formulas, making sure that we're sitting in the cell that is going to contain the answer. I'll make that our active cell, and we start with an equal sign that tells Excel, put the formula. I'm going to go grab my first piece, which is total revenue. Now, thinking ahead, we're going to copy this across, right? And then we're going to copy it down. So I need to lock in that it's in row 11, but I need it to change from B to C to D, right? So if I hit my F4 key, it locks in both. Well, then all the numbers will be the same because it's only going to go to April's total revenue. So I need to do it again. So F4 again. So it's locking in here row 11, and that's exactly what I want. Because when I move down to operational, it's still going to go up to 11. When I move over to column C, it'll change to C, but both of those will still go back to 11, but in C. And then the next one will do 11, but in D, right? All right, so now we need to think about that math symbol. Well, it's a multiplication, right? So we're going to multiply. And then we're going to come over to rates and tables, and we're going to pick the first one because we're doing a management, right? And then look at our formula. It's relative, right? So it's going to change, but I don't want it to change. I don't want it to change the column because when I copy it across on the cast links, it's going to change columns, so it's going to move. But I don't want it to move. So I'm going to hit my F4. It's not an absolute because I need to go here and I need to go operational here. Okay, row 3. No, I don't want it to stick on 3. Hit it again. So there we go. $ in front of G. It's going to stay in column G, but the row can change from 3 to 4, and that's perfect. That's what I want. So I'm going to check mark it or hit enter. It's going to allow me to put that in there. It's got the right number. And then I need to copy that down. Right? And so let's look at that formula. B11, so it goes back and finds that same thing, but here it's G4, right? So it's still G, but now it's row 4, which is right? It's the operational percentage. So both of these are good. I'm going to select both cells. So I get the American Red Cross, drag it down, highlighting both cells, go to the data fill handle in the corner, and drag it across to September. Perfect. So let's go check. Let's look at May's management. So C11, so I'm in column C, but it's still going up to the right row. Yay! G, it's still doing G, 3. Let's look here. Goes back to C11, good. G4. D11, G3. D11, G4. It's working. Perfect. Let's save that. And that takes us through step 5. And hopefully that makes a little sense. It is a fairly complex concept, so I just really recommend you practice doing it. You'll have practice in your labs. Reach out to your instructor if you are unsure of the process. There's also tutoring available here on main campus, and I believe there'll be tutoring at the Akron campus also. All right, so let's move on to step 6, where we're going to use auditing tools. This is a little bit simpler. So let's select D17. So D17, oh, I'm in there. Okay. So we're going to click the Trace Precedence button. So that's in our Formula tab. We haven't really gone there yet. And then Trace Precedence. So a precedent is things that are used to create the answer. So it's telling me that it's using this, and then it's off of another sheet, right? It's another sheet that I'm using to derive that answer. So it's a quick way to see the impact and where the numbers are coming from for a particular cell. All right, we're going to select E16, and this time we're going to do Trace Precedence. So Trace Precedence. So this is telling us, oops, was it precedence or, oh yeah. Okay, so for this one, what cells are being used? Okay, same kind of thing. We're going to go ahead and remove those arrows. Those are gone. So precedence is what is used to derive the answer I'm sitting in. Dependents are the opposite. So if I click on this one and I do trace dependence, it shows me the cells, and here's 3 of them, that use this number, right? So you can do it either way. What numbers are used to derive my answer, or where am I being used? Where am I being used is dependence. What am I built on is precedence. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and all right, so we want to do the show formula, and honestly guys, I never do it from here. I do the use the keyboard combination. So that is the control and the tilde. It's that little squiggly character that's to the left of the number 1 on your keyboard, and just because that's how I learned. So that toggles between showing the formulas and showing the answers. That's what this does. Show formulas will show you all of the formulas within a worksheet. And this is really nice for documentation. So if I wanted to document all of these formulas, I could print this out then and put it in a book, and I would have that. It's nice in case something happens and somebody or you accidentally delete your formulas, particularly if they're complex. And then the other thing is, if you get a worksheet from somebody else, it's nice to turn that formulas on and look and see the lay of the land, if you will. And honestly, when I get your files to grade, that is the first thing I do, is I turn that on, because invariably there are students that look at the answer sheet, instead of putting a formula here, they just type 7339, they just type the answer. Well, that's the first thing. If you type the answer in my class, you get a 0 for the assignment. If you don't put the formula, I don't care if everything else is correct. Every formatting, I don't care. If you type the answer instead of using a formula to derive it, you get a 0 for the assignment. That's my class. That's Mrs. Mandolinich's class. I don't know across the board how people do it. But, so don't type the answers. Use the formulas, because we look. All right, I'm going to end that at this point and pick up, I'm going to pick up on step 8 and the next movie. All right, guys, thank you.